Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine a world without clocks, without calendars as we know them. A world where time isn't measured in minutes or hours, but by the slow, rhythmic pulse of a great river. For thousands of years, this was the reality for the people of ancient Egypt. Their entire existence was tethered to the Nile, a lifeline that flowed through a vast, sun-scorched desert. And once a year, this river would swell, breaking its banks and transforming the arid land into a fertile paradise. This was Akhet, the season of inundation. This annual flood wasn't just a weather event. It was the heartbeat of a civilization. It was a promise and a threat, all at once. Too little water meant drought and famine. Too much, and entire villages could be washed away. The carefully tended fields destroyed. Life and death hung in the balance, decided by the whim of the river. The people watched the skies. They watched the water level, and they waited. Their survival depended on the Nile's genteel, life-giving embrace. This flood was their clock, their god, their ultimate provider. It deposited a rich, black silt, a gift of incredible fertility, upon which everything would be built. The season of the flood was a time of waiting, of planning, but also of a deep, collective holding of breath. As the waters began their slow retreat, a new season dawned. Hooray! The season of emergence. The air, once thick with the smell of wet earth, now carried a sense of urgent purpose. This was the time for work to begin. Imagine standing at the edge of a field, the morning sun still low in the sky. The land is a canvas of dark, glistening mud, impossibly rich. The air is cool, filled with the distant calls of ibises, and the gentle lapping of the water receding back into its channels. Farmers would emerge from their homes, simple tools in hand. The most vital of these was the shadoof, a clever contraption like a long seesaw, a heavy weight on one end, a bucket on the other. A single farmer could dip the bucket into a canal, and with the help of the counterweight, lift gallons of precious water to irrigate the higher fields. It was a rhythmic, almost meditative motion, repeated endlessly under the growing heat of the sun. You'd hear the creak of the wooden beam, the splash of water, a constant, life-sustaining sound across the landscape. Then came the plow, often a simple wooden frame tipped with a bronze or stone point, pulled by a pair of oxen. Their hooves would sink into the soft earth, their breath misting in the cool morning air. The farmer would walk behind, his hands firm on the plow, his voice a low hum of encouragement to the animals. The goal wasn't to turn the soil deep, but simply to break up the surface, to create furrows for the seeds. It was a partnership between man, animal, and the gifted earth. Once the furrows were ready, it was time for sowing. This wasn't a delicate process. The farmer would stride across the field, a leather bag of seeds slung over his shoulder, casting handfuls of wheat or barley in wide, sweeping arcs. To ensure the seeds were pressed firmly into the nourishing silt, a flock of sheep or goats would be driven across the field. Their small, cloven hooves acted as 1,000 tiny feet, treading the seeds into the ground, protecting them from the sun and hungry birds. The gentle bleating of the flock and the calls of the shepherd would echo across the plains. Cooperation was the unspoken law of the land. Fields were often worked by entire families, neighbors helping neighbors. Children would be tasked with scaring birds away, their shouts and small rattles adding to the soundscape of the fields. Women would carry water and food, their presence a steadying force. The boundaries of the fields, washed away by the flood each year, had to be remeasured and redrawn by scribes and surveyors, a testament to the community's reliance on order and fairness. This wasn't just farming. It was a communal ritual, a shared act of faith in the land and in each other. As the sun climbed higher, casting a golden light over the landscape, you could see the world teem with life. Dragonflies with iridescent wings would dart over the irrigation channels. Small frogs would hop from the muddy banks. The air was alive, humming with the promise of growth. The reflections in the still water of the canals would be perfect mirrors of the vast blue sky. Clouds drifting lazily by. The gentle breeze would rustle through the papyrus reeds, growing thick along the river's edge. A soft, whispering sound that seemed to carry the secrets of the ages. It was a scene of profound peace, of humanity working in perfect harmony with the natural world. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. The green shoots of wheat and barley pushed their way through the black soil, reaching for the sun. The landscape transformed from dark earth to a vibrant, waving sea of green. The farmers tended their crops diligently, pulling weeds, maintaining the irrigation ditches, their hope growing with every inch the plants grew. This was a time of patient observation, of watching the miracle of life unfold before their very eyes. The sun was now stronger, the days longer. This was the season of Shimu, the season of harvest, the culmination of all their hard work. The fields, once green, had now turned to a shimmering gold. The air was dry and hot, filled with the earthy scent of ripe grain. The harvest began. Men moved through the fields in lines, their bronze sickles flashing in the sun. The rhythmic swish of the sickle cutting through the stalks was the dominant sound, a sound of success and abundance. They worked from sunrise to sunset, their bodies glistening with sweat, their faces set with determination. Behind the reapers came the gatherers, usually women and older children, who had bundled the fallen stalks into sheaves. They would call out to each other, their voices carrying over the fields, a mix of work, songs, and cheerful chatter. The sheaves were then transported from the field to the threshing floor, a flat, hard-packed circle of earth. This was often done by donkeys, laden with towering piles of golden grain, their patient footsteps a slow and steady beat. At the threshing floor, the next stage of the process began. Oxen, their hooves unshod, were driven around and around in circles, their weight separating the grain from the stalk. The farmers would shout encouragement, their calls echoing in the dry heat. After threshing came wind. On a breezy day, the threshed grain would be tossed into the air with wooden scoops. The wind, a welcome collaborator, would carry away the lighter chaff, while the heavier grains of wheat or barley fell back to the floor. It was a dusty, strenuous job, but it was also a moment of truth, revealing the treasure that lay within the husks. You could see the golden cascade of grain shimmering in the sunlight, a beautiful and satisfying sight. Finally, the grain was collected, measured, and stored in granaries. Scribes would meticulously record the yield, their red pens scratching against papyrus. A portion would go to the farmer's family, a portion to the temple, and a portion to the state as taxes. This grain was the wealth of the nation, the food that would sustain them through the next flood season, the currency that would pay the craftsmen and build the great monuments. As the last of the harvest was gathered and the fields lay bare and dry, a sense of completion and gratitude settled over the land. The cycle was complete. The Nile had given its gift, the people had done their work, and the earth had provided its bounty. Now, there was a brief pause, a time of rest, before the cycle would begin all over again. The first signs of the next inundation would soon appear, and the great, slow rhythm of life along the Nile would continue, as it had for centuries, and as it would for centuries to come. A timeless dance between humanity and the river that gave them everything. Thank you for joining this journey back in time. If you found peace in this story, consider subscribing for more moments of calm from history.